This is Jackie Luqman.
And I'm Abdul Shahi Luqman.
And welcome to another episode of Live and Coffee, Current Events, and Politics in Luqman Nation.
As always, the most dangerous show on social media anywhere. We thank you for coming and joining us today. We hope that you all had a very good day. And we ask that you, share this video. Do all of the things that, you should be used to doing by now. And look, and some of you who might be able to start a watch party, because I'm still trying to learn how to do that. Start a watch party, bring folks in, because we feel like we have a very good discussion today. And, kind of take us a little bit out of the norm of what we normally talk about. But we think that we'll have fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually think this is right in the lane of what we talk about, because this is not a topic. This whole cult of personality thing is not a topic that's new to us here in Luqman Nation, because we talked about it before a lot.
Yeah, we have.
When it came to Uncle Bernie Sanders, and how nobody could criticize Uncle Bernie Sanders. It didn't matter what he said that was completely messed up. In regard to black people, right, and the things that black people need, and the things that he was not addressing as far as reparations was concerned. You couldn't criticize Bernie Sanders because people would lose their minds.
Yeah.
And so we
Bernie
could
brews and all this stuff.
I mean, I hate using that term, but it's like some people were just unreasonable to the point where you couldn't have a conversation about the issues because people took your criticism of their favorite personality personally.
Yeah.
And I feel like everything we want to talk about tonight fits right into that. So, like, the very first issue, like this whole pandemic situation that's going on, we've seen... I mean, people have been sharing some horrifying videos of just yesterday of some party somewhere out in Pennsylvania where, I mean, like a concert where people, hundreds of people, no masks, just a lot of them, no shirts. What is it with dudes just running around, not at the beach?
Some dudes.
Without shirt. I don't... It's like y'all are not afraid of the sun or the pandemic. So you're going to get skin cancer and you're going to get coronavirus, because probably too many coronas is part of the problem. But there's that on the one spectrum where, you got a bunch of white folks at this huge concert in Pennsylvania. But we see some of this too.
See it all the time.
Yeah. We do. And I mean, just the other day. When we were driving around, just trying to get our own little out of the house time, what was the observation you made?
Well, I mean, look, I drive a truck, so I'm out, so I see it every day. And the fact remains is on Saturday, look, people, I get it. I get that, this whole pandemic thing is a drag on our regular, normal routine. I get it that, we like to have some sense of normalcy. This is barbecue season. Yep. People want to be with family. There's birthdays. There's all of this stuff. But, I mean, come on, man. I mean, what was it? Yesterday. I mean, every day since last week, Florida's been reporting thousands of infections every day. And this ain't, come on, people. Don't play with our intelligence. This is not just new. This is just not testing, finding new infections or old infections. No. This is the residual results. This is the result of all of this 4th of July, all of this going down to the beach, all of this I have rights and open up the state and all of this other kind of stuff, and people believing just because you can't see it, it's not true. Yes, it's true. People are dying. Herman Cain is not in hiding. Herman Cain is dead.
You did not just say that.
Yeah, he's not in hiding. He's dead. I mean, and I mean, he was one of the ones that was out here. We talk about cult of personality. Here's someone who did not take science seriously. And look, I don't make light of the man's death, but this was preventable. The man was like 70-some years old. I mean, in that age range of where COVID is like the most dangerous to you, if you get it. So, I mean, but no, he's going around, he was going around saying you didn't have to wear, he was tweeting you didn't have to wear a mask and this and the other. And following Trump and this whole political mess of politicizing the pandemic and politicizing whether it's okay to wear a mask and everything, So, I mean, look, in the end, Herman Cain is no different than anyone else. We are responsible for the choices that we make.
Yeah,
You go out here and you do something foolish, and it causes you harm or maybe even take your life. Who are you to blame?
Did you just personal responsibility?
What did I say?
You just personal responsibility.
Yes. I mean, why do we feel like, and I'm glad you laughed at that, because why do we feel that the right owns these terms? They don't. Personal responsibility is something that makes sense. I can't go out here and just do anything I want to do. Harmful that would bring harm to me or my family or anything like this. And if I do, then I'm the one that have to have the consequences. But this is the thing, Jackie, before I pass the ball to you. One of the things that really bothered me yesterday when you and I were out is look, black folks, I get it. It's barbecue time. We love to get together for barbecues. The park is hot, and I know. But it's killing us the most, this pandemic. We can't wish this away. We can't. I know people who they keep going on YouTube finding these nutcases that get on here and talk about all kinds of conspiracy things and how if you mix something with coconut oil and all these other kind of things and stuff, these home remedies and all this other kind of stuff. Look, people, this is fantasy. You can't wish this away. You can't look at these people who have no medical training, who have no scientific background, who are sitting up here talking. No, these are the same people that was used to get on our nerves with crisis actors and all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So let's look at this. It has taken a lot of people off this planet, people who are famous, and those of us who've known people who are close to us. So this is not a joke, and the fact that this administration, and not just this administration, that governments around the world have politicized this pandemic and causing thousands upon thousands of people to die and millions and millions of infections. Do you remember, Jackie, when we first started this whole pandemic thing? Do you remember how the numbers were like, 100,000 people are infected?
Right.
We are up to over 4 million.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm so glad you brought up Herman Cain, though, because, we're laughing at some of this because, this has been a rough week, and just the rest of the conversation we're going to have tonight, it just took all my energy today. But just to show you how dangerous following a personality rather than facts is. I mean, this is Herman Cain at that Trump rally, surrounded by all these other people who I pray to God they have gone to get tested.
Wow.
This was 9 days after that Trump rally, where all the black conservatives sat in the VIP blacks only section at the Trump rally. That was just the most ridiculous visual. 9 days later, Herman Cain tested positive for COVID-19. And his account, whoever, the staffers who were running his account, deleted this tweet when he announced that masks will not be mandatory. Masks will not be mandatory for the event, which will be attended by President Trump. People are fed up. Well, I guess he doesn't have to worry about being fed up anymore because he is indeed dead. And like I said, all of these folks, Paris Denard back there looking like all of these folks, I hope they go and get tested. This one guy back here, we were laughing at this one dude back here who was like, okay, I'm for Trump and all that kind of stuff, but I ain't that stupid. I might be dumb enough to vote for Donald Trump, but I'm not dumb enough to listen to that dude about this, the science behind this virus.
But you know, when we look at this picture, and it's chilling because you look at this picture and you see that everyone that's in that camera that we're looking at right now have family. Went home to people.
Home to their family.
Right.
Herman Cain has a family. He went home to his family for 9 days.
For 9 days.
Before he tested positive. He was at home with his family. So, you know, a lot of this foolishness about, not wearing masks and people acting a fool when they go out to a store and the store, the store's rules are, no mask, you can't come in here, and they lose their minds. Oh, you're discriminating against me. Well, the same store has a rule that says if you don't have a shirt on, you can't come in.
Right.
If you don't have shoes on, you can't come in here. I mean, this is all a result of people in this country buying into the cult of personality of Donald Trump. We've said it so many times.
Exactly.
Donald Trump is a cult leader. He doesn't think of himself that way, but he absolutely has a cult at this point with his supporters who, no matter what he does, but you know what? I got to take it back.
Look,
I think he did. I think he does know.
I was going to say.
I think he does know, because remember when he said, when he was campaigning, I could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and not lose any of my followers. He knew then what kind of people would be drawn to him. He was right.
Yep.
And we just kept telling you he's right. So listen, listen to even if you do have to be around other people, like we did go to our uncle's birthday party last Sunday. We stayed for all of an hour. We stayed the heck away from everybody else.
We did.
We had our masks on.
We social distanced.
I mean,
even when we sat around the table, we spaced ourselves.
There is, if you got to do it, and my uncle is 78, and he's like, look, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I'm having a cookout. I want to see my people. It's my birthday, because who knows? Okay, all right, that makes sense. But you take precautions. These people are taking no precautions, and a whole lot of people are out there not taking any precautions, and that's why we've got nearly 4 million cases of this virus, and I'm positive we'll have well over 200,000 deaths. Very soon.
I think what's really bothering me too about what we saw yesterday is the amount of children we seen running in the park. It must have been some big function and everything. Then we're gonna move off of this, but it was this big function, and the place was packed. It's something in our neighborhood where we live, and the place was packed. And I'm telling you, to see these kids sliding up and down the sliding board, no social distancing, none of these kids have masks on and stuff. Now, Jackie, we remember when we mentioned some weeks ago, we said that because people, especially in this country, have a hard time taking responsibility. There go that word again. Taking responsibility not only for themselves but for their families and for others. That the government is going to become more and more aggressively, the government is going to become more aggressive in enforcing these social distancing rules and we're already seeing it. And we were speaking about this morning how the amount of children. This is why the teachers don't want to go back, because they understand that these kids are coming from homes, for the most part, where their parents aren't taking this seriously. I'm not saying everybody, but come on. We must have seen, Jackie, like 50 kids in that park. Yeah. So they don't live by themselves. And so you expect a teacher to come to school with these kids are going to the school, and so these teachers are supposed to put their life and their families' lives, because they got to go home to somebody. And what really bothers me is the fact that I think that there is going to be child abuse charges. I think these things are going to start to happen as we cannot get a hold of these numbers, as people still flaunt the basic guidelines in order to deal with this pandemic. And as people continue to flaunt this, and the state becomes more and more aggressive in this enforcement, watch where you have what they call it, the DEFS, what we call it DIFS in Jersey, but like Child Welfare Protection Services. Watch they become more involved. People may get their kids even taken away, because it's going to be a point where people are going to look at this as child abuse. We know that children can catch the virus. We know that the virus sometimes metastasize or mutate into other forms of I forgot that term they have with the Japanese type thing.
Oh, the Kawasaki syndrome with all of these different kinds of manifestations in children. And so there's still so much we don't know about this virus.
Exactly.
But what we do know is that just because a child has it and they don't show symptoms that are as strong as an adult would, that does not mean that a child cannot pass the virus on to an adult.
Exactly. Or other children.
And you don't know how it's gonna manifest itself as this thing progresses as more children catch the virus, because people are believing that it's not so serious when kids catch the virus. I mean, the problem with this whole issue is that people are focusing on, people's individual behavior when we have not dealt with the failure of the state to address this problem. So what's going to happen is, because the state didn't do what it was supposed to do, what it should have done to take care of the people, now the state is going to make up for its failures and act like, and act like the state does. The state is a hammer. Everything is a nail to the state. The state is a hammer that doesn't actually do what it's supposed to when things really do need to be fixed.
That's right.
That's what it is. That's right. A whole lot of people just following folks.
Right. Look for parks to be closed again. Yeah. Look for a lot of these rollbacks. But what we saw yesterday, I'm telling you, there's going to be parks are going to be closed again. A lot of public spaces that were open, and I'm talking about public spaces that really is not going to cost the state money. Right. They could close these parks like we saw yesterday, and they're not going to lose any money.
They're not going to lose a dime.
So the places where the state is going to lose revenue, they may delay on that, but eventually they're going to have to close that too, because this virus is really out of control. Some of the doctors and scientists are already saying that we can't put the genie back in the bottle. It's going to just have to play itself out. So anyway,
and before we move on, I do want to say really quickly about the whole the children in school thing. Part of the problem with the lack of response that the state has had in taking care of people is that in the rush to reopen schools and expose children to this virus, which is exposing the children's families to this virus as well as the teachers.
Right.
Parents who have children with special needs, who have a difficult time with their kids' curriculum at home and need support, don't have any.
Right.
Because, I mean, that's a whole nother discussion. And we're also talking about the whole poverty issue where poor kids... Broadband, internet isn't free anywhere. Internet still isn't free, and even if it was, everybody doesn't have access to the equipment that they need to continue to do online. So this is the issue. If the state had done what it was supposed to do to make sure that the needs of all of the people were met, so that we could all hunker down and take care of this thing, we wouldn't be having these discussions. But the state didn't, so we are. And this is what happens when you follow the cult of personality, and the personality in the form of Donald J. Trump and all of his cronies tell you, oh, this is going to disappear before you know it, and everything is fine, and you don't need to wear a mask. And then you have people not interrogating the state that failed all of us. That's the one issue.
Yeah, but don't ask. But don't say that you think that the government should extend the $600 relief, and then you have everybody come at you. But we spent enough time on this.
Yes, we did. Okay, so the next thing, this is really just hilarious to me. Do you want to go to the Beyonce thing or the NFAC thing first?
NFAC.
Okay.
Why not? Let's have some fun with it.
Lord Jesus. Hold on, let me put this in the small window because I need you to see this. This is so ridiculous.
Because all of a sudden, it wasn't me. If I say every member of the NFAC start killing all the black people who talking reckless against us, because they're the enemy, a lot of you all would shut the fuck up. And you have no idea how close we are to that point. Because we know you won't fight the white man. But my question now becomes, would you fight us? That's my morning mental for this morning.
He said, that's my morning mental for this morning. Like, that was a big deal. Okay, if you didn't know, that is Grandmaster Jay. Let me put his little mug back up on the thing so y'all can... There you go. That's Grandmaster Jay, the leader of the Not Fucking Around Coalition,
or NFAC.
NFAC.
Yeah, NFAC. Not AFLAC, NFAC.
NFAC. The big old armed black militia that, you know, we talked about last week before last.
Yeah.
And look, there's a reason we frame our discussions the way we do. Because we understand that not everybody agrees or understands the same things on the same level that we do. So we kind of, and we do this kind of intentionally. We kind of take baby step. We kind of take a baby step approach to some conversations. And sometimes, you know, we just kind of like to sit back and see how things play out, because we know it's going to be some more shit down the line.
Right.
And we knew there was going to be some more stuff down the line from these folks. Now, when they first appeared on the scene, they actually first appeared on the scene at the protests down in Georgia after the killing of Ahmaud Arbery.
Oh, okay.
Right? So when people started protesting after Ahmaud Arbery was murdered, they did go down and protect folks from, you know, the crazy white people down there. They did that. But the next time, and nobody knew who they were then.
Right.
The next time you see them, they're, you know, all in formation at Stone Mountain, Georgia. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. And we were like, and I still believe this is true, generally, that the imagery was important.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, the imagery of black folk who are armed and... somewhat well organized, and, you know, I think that imagery is important.
Especially after George Floyd. I mean, come on, we took a couple of heavy hits.
We did.
Yeah, from the police, you know.
Yeah, and we need to see our folks out there being unafraid in that manner. And I did go back and forth with a few comrades who, you know, absolutely correctly raised the issue that political education is very important. We don't know these people's ideology. We don't know what their politics are. And for us, that's very, very important. And at the time, you know, I was a little bit irritated because I'm like, look, okay, can you just admit that the imagery is important? And, you know, but they were right. They were absolutely right. And I had to pull back and say, you know what? You're right. I can't just focus on the imagery here, although I do think the imagery is important. But we'll see what these folks are all about.
Well, you know, it's funny because imagery can work for you or it can work against you.
Ooh, can't it?
So during Stone Mountain, the long procession, dressed in black, the militancy, the silence, except for him, and and this, who are these people? Where they come from? How was they able to organize this stuff? Wow, we really had. And then they named themselves Not Fucking Around, and wow, man, this is what we need, because I mean, we took some heavy hits. Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and we need to be able to send a message that, hey, look, we're not just going to be cannon fodder, Right,
we're not fucking around.
Right. We're to this point now, And what happened is that imagery can also work against you, as what happened the last time when they were down in Louisville, and they had the let me put it this way. They used to have the wardrobe malfunction, weapons malfunction.
They had
Right. So now all of a sudden, and I understand, but what happened was, like, in Stone Mountain, Grandmaster Jay told us, hey, look, we're militarily trained, we're this, we're that. And just because you have a weapons malfunction, I won't take away from the fact that they are probably ex-military stuff. I mean, you have friendly fire in the military, you have things happen. But what I'm saying is now, now that after the weapons malfunction, now you got people saying, well, you really shouldn't be doing weapons check, and all this other kind of stuff. But for me, Jackie, that's not. I can excuse that. Like, I can excuse a weapons malfunction because I understand that sometimes stuff happens. Things,
True. True.
What I can excuse is a weapon malfunction and being threatened with murder.
Come on, man.
Right. Now, I can't excuse that. So I'm saying, now, here's this guy who comes up and he says, look, we're militarily trained. All y'all can't join us because we know what we're doing. We're not fucking around, and this and that and the other. And I'm like, okay, I understand. I'm in my 50s, and I'll, look. As much as I desire to not fuck around with you, I probably would slow you up. That's why they don't. Right. That's why they don't draft soldiers my age.
That's because the arthritis. We can't run.
Exactly.
We ain't doing that.
Yeah. So okay, Grandma, I'm with you on that. I mean, I could support you in other ways, but you probably don't want me to have a gun and be out there if stuff kicks off. I get that. Should have caught me 30 years ago. But then again, I'm saying, like, now all of a sudden I mean, he put out there, this is his words. What do you exist for? We are here to protect black people. We are here to protect black people. And now the same people that you want to protect, you're saying that you could give the order. And I know he was saying it in a sort of rhetorical way, but I mean, but in a way now, as much as I don't want to go there, but that was a terroristic threat. But look, you can go to jail for that. For example, and then number one is the fact that he says talking reckless. This is what we go by with the cult of personality thing.
Yep.
You and I were talking before. Now, if he had all of this military training and all this, that, and all this thing, I mean, what if you were actually in the war? I don't know if you ever been in one, but what if you were actually in the war? I mean, say for example, all it would take is for the enemy to tease you, and then you just lose your mind.
Right.
I mean, it's like, look, Grandmaster Jay, you might not have got the memo, but this is not a black authoritarian state. People are allowed to talk reckless if they want to. Your job wasn't to control the recklessness of our speech. You said that you formed the militia to protect black people. You didn't put any other conditions on that.
I'm sorry.
So I don't get it. This is what he said. But
what he said, and he was so serious too.
I mean, look, you took the picture down, but he was very serious, looking like Samuel L. Jackson, but he was looking very serious.
Wait a minute. Let me bring it back. I'm so sorry. Hold on, cause dude, we got threatened with murder because people were talking reckless. Right.
And see, this would kill me. I don't know if you looked in the comments of when he was talking, but people were actually posting names, I guess, of people who spoke so-called reckless. Yeah. Tariq Nasheed and such and such and such and such and such and such. And it's like, so this is what we have. I mean, this is like what the Beehive does, and they make it all personalized and stuff like that.
Oh, there it is.
But the thing of it is that, you this is not what you said you formed the militia for. And somebody has said, I have not yet examined his comments about Hitler. I've heard he mention Hitler in some context. I don't want to say, but I will say this. This was the same attitude Adolf Hitler had when Germany was close to defeat. He didn't take it upon himself to say, oh, I screwed up. I'm the one that commanded the army and messed up so much that our enemies felt it was better to leave me alive than to kill me because I was making so many military blunders, that I wouldn't listen to the generals, I wouldn't do this. Oh no, he said that the German people deserved defeat because they would not fight hard enough. So these megalomaniacs right? And it's one of the true sign of a megalomaniac is the fact that they'll take credit for the successes.
Oh, but they never take responsibility for the failures.
As our African brothers say, aha.
Aha.
Yep.
Listen, this guy, let me just...
Because all of a sudden, it wasn't me. If I say every member of the NFAC start killing other black people who talking reckless against us because they're the enemy, a lot of you all would shut the fuck up.
Right there.
And you have no idea how close we are to that point.
Right there. That whole now in all seriousness, as ridiculous as this man is in this video right here, and when we were watching the videos, the interviews that he was doing as the days progressed, you know, we noticed how he loves the camera, loves it. If you're a military leader, how many military leaders do you out and understand that we're not sitting here saying that we admire the military in any way. We're just talking strategy. We're just talking strategy here, especially in warfare.
Right, like some Sun Tzu type stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
How many military leaders did you ever see do a bunch of interviews about what they were doing on the battlefield? No, they did not do that. Even during Vietnam, even though the journalists brought the war and the horrors of the war to the American public through journalists who were embedded with the army, with the the U.S. Armed Forces, the leadership hated that shit.
Right.
They hated it because for them it was a distraction. I'm not saying that was, good or bad. I'm just telling you the reality that military leadership is not going to seek out a whole bunch of attention and tell the whole world what they're doing all the time. That's number one, which was my issue with the whole, weapons malfunction thing. You don't do a weapons check after you're in formation and you go out in public. You do that in private,
right,
because you're checking your weapons,
right,
to make sure everything is okay. And if there's something wrong, then you can fix it before you go in public. But if you're an attention whore...
Yeah, right, but, he's in the military, he should know this.
Then his comments about, if he told every member of the NFAC to shoot and kill all the black people who were talking reckless because that we're the enemy. So we're the enemy because we criticize your sloppy ass tactics. And if you want to tell them that the Luqman's talking about them, go ahead. Because this is ridiculous. This is, if anybody in this organization actually follows that order, then those are the people who are the enemy. And I don't like saying that about my people. I don't. But when you threaten folks that you claim, like you said, hon, when you threaten people that you claim you exist to protect with violence, with murder, simply because they criticize you, then what it is that you want to be a tyrant.
Right.
You don't want to be a leader. You don't want to protect people. You don't want to build a community of folks. You want power.
Right. And I'll tell you one thing, is the fact that he considers himself a Pan-Africanist. And this is the thing. Marcus Garvey, who is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, leader of black people, I say within the last 100 years, who had the largest following of black people in this country, that has not been outdone yet. And black people constantly went against Garvey's thing, stole money from the organization. Yep. I mean, purposely worked with the government against him and all this stuff. Slandered the man's name. I mean, when he went back to Jamaica, Jamaicans were throwing rocks at him and stuff. But not once has it ever been recorded that Garvey advocated violence against black people.
Just because they were criticized.
Or because, and see, this is where great leaders come in at. See, great leaders understand that sometimes your vision is not always shared with the people that you have a vision for, and sometimes that the people that you have a vision for don't always, aren't all, as you say, Jackie, all the time, are not always where you're at. So what makes a great leader is to understand that maybe you've been given something that your people just aren't ready for yet, and they have to catch up with you, which what happens with great leaders sometimes. I mean, so to sit back and say that if you gave the order, once again, narcissism, if I gave the order, and because you are the enemy, then dude, you know what? Then you're not up for this job. And you're not up for this job because you of all people should understand that we are a traumatized people, we are a diverse people, and we are not monolithic. There are some people who are going to dig you, there's some people that ain't. And the fact remains is that if you got into this fight not understanding that on the base level, you're not up for this.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, and just to close out on this whole NFAC thing, because I'm sure that's not going to be the last we hear of this dude, and that's unfortunate because this could be a powerful movement. The NFAC could be a powerful movement if their leader had the right kind of politics, and it just seems that he does not. He's on some other stuff. He's on some pay attention to me, it's me stuff. And we can't afford that. We can't afford that kind of stuff in this movement. But even if that were not true, just the fact that he talks about, the NFAC exists to protect black people, but we haven't seen them doing that anymore since they went down to the protest after Ahmaud Arbery was murdered.
Right.
Because there are all these protests going around. I mean, the protesters in Philly show could use their support because those white folks from Fishtown keep showing up armed, assaulting people. That little small, well, they're white people, so I guess he wouldn't go down there to protect them. But those little folks down in Bethel, Ohio, they've been getting attacked by white supremacists that have been coming from another state to assault those few little 4 or 5 allies out there. Those little white people with that. I mean, they assaulted a teenage girl. I mean, they could have shown up in Portland. You see what we're saying here? It's like the priorities are all messed up for this guy. I don't think we're going to impute his messed up priorities to everybody else in that organization.
No, not at all. I mean, I agree with you, not at all. Nor are we going to say that everybody who, because you have other black militias, and you have other black gun clubs, and so, I mean, no, we're not going to paint everybody with this broad brush. But this dude, look, you say that's your morning, what did he say it was? His morning what?
His morning mental?
Well, look, I would say be less mental and be more meditative. And
that is so good.
Maybe, you'll be able to see this thing a little bit more clearly.
That is so good. That is so good. All right, on to the next topic. And this is probably the one that's going to get us the most hate. Because y'all love yourself some Beyonce. And I swear to God, she is like black pop music Jesus. I don't understand what's wrong with y'all. Okay. Here is the latest Beyonce ridiculousness. Oh, let me put it on the other screen because, you can probably see it better that way. This is a tweet by the rapper Noname. Now, I'm going to be real honest. I don't know a whole lot about Noname.
Me neither.
I'm 53 years... Am I 53?
Yeah.
Because you're 54.
I'm 54.
Okay, yes.
Right.
I'm 53 years old. I'm 53 years old. I'm at the point in my life where I don't keep up with how old I am anymore. I'm just glad I'm still here every year. Yeah. I'm 53 years old.
We count seasons now.
Exactly. Yeah. We count seasons. It's like, woo, we saw another summer. Right.
Yep.
But I mean, so we don't really keep up on current music because we don't listen to a whole lot of current radio stations, and I bet you that you're not gonna hear a whole lot of her stuff on commercial radio anyway, because she got too much of a political ideology that is not capitalistic and the kind of stuff that plays.
She didn't come out the nigger factory. That's what it is.
Ooh, see?
Right.
Yes. So this was a tweet that she tweeted about, in a roundabout way, Beyonce's movie Black is King. This is what she said. "We love an African aesthetic draped in capitalism. Hope we remember the black folks on the continent whose daily lives are impacted by U.S. imperialism. If we can uplift the imagery, I hope we can uplift those who will never be able to access it. Black liberation is a global struggle. Baby, the hatred this woman has received from this tweet has been unbelievable. No, it hasn't been unbelievable. It's been unconscionable. Because, let's be real clear here. Noname was not criticizing Black is King. She really was not in this vote. But even if she was, so the hell what? But here, she was not saying that it was bad. She wasn't saying that you shouldn't watch it. She wasn't saying that you shouldn't enjoy it.
Right, right.
You understand? She was making a larger point about the way we consume entertainment against the realities of what we as a people face in this system on the continent and by extension throughout the diaspora. That's what she was saying. But Beyonce's fans, the beehive, and now the African beehive, I said it. I am not sorry. Because a lot of folks, now I'm not saying, look, the continent is enormous. It's hundreds of millions of people on the continent. So I'm not...
Actually 1.4 billion.
Thank you. Thank you for that correction. So I'm not saying that the folks who responded to Noname are representative of all of the Africans on the continent. We're not fitting to do that here. But there is a really bad response to this tweet that goes something like, Beyonce has done more for Black artists than anybody else has ever done. Beyonce has done more for Black people on the continent, for Africans on the continent, than any of you have ever done. So keep Beyonce's name out your mouth. And while we're having these conversations about, people being really personally defensive about, oh, you can't criticize Beyonce and, she's representing the culture and she's lifting up African artists that nobody else would have ever listened to. The issues that Noname actually addressed, the issues that she actually raised, are completely being ignored again. And I say again, and I'm going to play this video real quick and then kick it to you.
All right.
I say again because of this.
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Asantua Nkrumah Toure, and I'd like to give thanks and praises to Brother Peter Bailey. I agree with you, brother. There were a lot of different things left out of the movie. You lived through it and you knew Malcolm. As someone who's been researching Malcolm, though, as the brother said, the things that were left out were very significant. Malcolm X made a speech called Message to the Grassroots. That wasn't there. Malcolm X met Fidel Castro at the Hotel Teresa in Harlem. That wasn't there. Malcolm X visited Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, correct me if I'm wrong, brother, and some other countries in Africa, and he met the revolutionary leaders at that time, Nkrumah, Sekou Touré, Modibo Keita, Amilcar Cabral, Oliver Tambo, etc., etc. He also met Nasser when he was in Egypt. He wasn't just riding around on a camel as a tourist, okay? When Malcolm X was in Egypt meeting with Nasser, they had meetings and discussions about Zionism. Malcolm X wrote an article called Zionist Logic, and in that article he equated Zionism with American imperialism, American dollarism. He supported the rights of the Palestinians. That was not in the movie for obvious reasons. So to get back to this gentleman's question here, art is a form of propaganda. It sells an idea. It gets people thinking certain types of things. And because these things and others were left out, people have a certain view about Malcolm. It's a distorted view, and they're making a view based on a lie. And for our young people, for African young people, that's very dangerous. We want the truth to our young people. And to the gentleman back here, I know for a fact that Warner Brothers put political pressure on Spike Lee about that movie because they asked him, a brother who was a consultant to the movie, how are you going to deal with Malcolm and his visit to the Middle East? Well, that was an obvious reason for that question. They didn't want to have on that film Malcolm talking about Palestinians. That's a bad word these days, particularly in light of the Middle East peace talks. You will never see in a movie in America anyway, a man named Lenny Brenner, who's a European anti-Zionist Jew. He speaks all around the country, but you don't have him on PBS. There are a number of Jews around the world who are of different races who were organizing and speaking out against the creation of the State of Israel, but you will not have them on TV too. So as the brother said, art and propaganda are very related, and for our people, as oppressed and exploited as we are, we have to make a conscious decision that art and every other skill that we have as a people must serve our liberation, and if it does not, we will face the consequences.
Look here. Listen. This sister is Mawusi Nkrumah Toure. We know her. She is our good friend. She's up in Philadelphia. And we don't say that to brag. It's just, you have to understand, this is the community we're in. Do you understand what I'm saying? We don't, but more important, I think, than pointing out that these are the kind of people we're in community with, is the fact that this is from what year did the Malcolm X the movie come out?
Like in the early 90s.
Yeah, so this was 1992?
Yeah, something like that.
That's something like that? We have been talking about art being political, art being propaganda for decades. I mean, this is, so that even in this context, this wasn't a new conversation. And black people who understand the power of propaganda, understand the power of art, and how our own art has been used against us in this capitalist imperialist system to placate us from criticizing that very system. Because that's what she was explaining was done with the movie Malcolm X. Now, as much as we loved that movie Malcolm X, and I do love the movie, it's very enjoyable, I learned later on that there were things that were left out of this movie that would have changed my perspective on the movie about the way it was used in the way people were talking to us about how we were supposed to act. Right. Like what Mawusi was bringing up about where Malcolm went when he went to Africa. Right. The movie would have you believe that Malcolm only went to Mecca.
Or Egypt.
Right.
Yeah, Egypt then Mecca.
Right. He only went to Egypt. He only went to Mecca, and that's where he became, Mecca is where he became de-radicalized. And you know, he wasn't on that Nation of Islam tip anymore, and he didn't hate white people anymore. And that's all that the movie would have you believe about what Malcolm did and what he brought from his travels on the continent. But what actually happened was that Malcolm X connected with Pan-African leaders. African leaders who were deeply invested in the political unification, or the unification of African people and Africans throughout the diaspora on the political principles of the liberation of Africans all around the world. That is Pan-Africanism. That's what Malcolm X was being steeped in on the continent, but you didn't see that in the movie. And the reason for that is because the movie was used, that part of the movie where Malcolm goes to Mecca and he sees all these white people who are Muslims and everybody's getting along, that was used against radical black folks to discredit black power. Because how could black power have any relevance if even Malcolm X, who is, you know, a revered icon among many black radicals, how could you still be on the black power tip when Malcolm X came from Mecca and said that we're all one? So art is propaganda, and in this capitalist imperialist system, we don't control our own art. Not only do we not control our own art, it can be easily used as a tool against us to stymie the criticism of the very system that's doing the manipulating. And this is the point that I feel like Noname was trying to make. Not so much that Black is King is this or is not this, that other thing. I don't feel like she was making that point. Because she specifically said, let me pull it back up. I don't want to paraphrase when, we get it right. When she specifically said, hope we remember the Black folks on the continent whose daily lives are impacted by U.S. imperialism. If we can uplift the imagery, I hope we can uplift those who will never be able to access it. She wasn't talking about what Black is King is or isn't. Mm-hmm. She wasn't critiquing in that part. She wasn't critiquing Beyonce or the art. She did right here. And that's absolutely true.
Right.
Because Black is King is everything that is supposed to be African and Blackness wrapped up in a nice capitalist package for easy consumption. Is it not? So where's the lie in that? That's true. But the rest of this tweet was about us and what we do with that stuff. Mm-hmm. And people have been going after that woman like she said that Beyonce has a bad weave. And it really is ridiculous because we cannot, we keep focusing on this cult of personality thing where we can't criticize the effectiveness of art when it does kind of obscure the reality of the system that it's in. Mm-hmm. And it's disseminated through that system. Right? And because it's disseminated through that system, it's still not accessible to everybody.
Right.
And then when the imagery that is reflected in the art is also reflective of the system. Apparently there's a part in the movie.
Right.
Where there are rich Black people in ball gowns having like a tea party or a formal ball. Yeah. I know you were just thinking about it. Having like some kind of formal ball thing, garden party, and they got white butlers. Tell me that's not capitalist classism. Yeah, it is. It's just with Black people in the roles that white people traditionally inhabit. And okay, while I understand that might feel good on a get back kind of level, when we're talking about art as propaganda and the political implications of it, what does that really mean? When the image that we are feeding our people is that we should aspire to be capitalists so we can put white people in the lower class.
Oh my God.
Oh, say something so I can stop talking.
Well, look, you cut up a lot of stuff there, so I don't want to just, regurgitate what you said, but I will say this. Is that you're right. There has always been a long history of Black people within, basically examining if the art is, I won't say worthy, but if the art is effective enough in order to express, our struggle, express what we're feeling, express what our realities are, and all this other kind of stuff. James Baldwin took Richard Wright on when he wrote, when he wrote the critique about Richard Wright's Native Son. He said everybody's protest novel, and that was a critique against not only Richard Wright's Native Son, but it was a critique of other people who were following in that genre. Baldwin felt like who wrote protest novels himself, but he also felt that within the confines of these protest novels that there wasn't really. It wasn't really enough. It wasn't our struggle wasn't really being expressed in this totality. That it was being confined to certain spaces and certain times, and because that the Black community is diverse and has a multitude of experiences, including class, that that even though the major theme is white supremacy, and that white supremacy affects all of us no matter what class we think we're on and what our experiences are, is the fact that the conversation was being narrowed to the bigger Thomases and everything else.
Right.
So what the sister was saying on C-SPAN is that, yeah, right, art is propaganda. All you got to do is look at when America goes to war, and especially examine some of the World War II imagery, how how Americans' views of Asians were shaped through cartoons and American art, the blackface, how we were viewed, and all of the anti-black stereotypes that came through the art of blackface, which is why we're so offended by it now and won't tolerate it now. But this was considered art,
right?
So when we really look at and let me say this with respect to Beyonce's thing, let me say this: the only art that can't be criticized is the art that you make for yourself. So when you make art and you put it out there publicly, and you put it out there for public consumption, no one can demand that that is off limits to be discussed.
Right.
You put music out there. You can't say you can't tell the audience or anybody that listens to that music that you don't have a right to say anything about it. It's public. And so it's public. Yeah. So I mean, and I think that I look, if you want to know what I really think about the subject, I wrote something on my page about it. But I really believe that one of the things that happens in these situations, Beyonce's fan club is very known for its viciousness, for its mean-spiritedness, and all the stuff, as if they have something to gain. For protecting this woman's reputation or whatever, which has never been, never really been threatened. Like you was talking about Noname, her tweet. Not once has been Beyonce's name mentioned. Black is King is not mentioned. I can recall when Black Panther came out, we had the same discussions about Black Panther.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
We had the same discussion about Black Panther, which I thought was great, because I was really excited to see the differences of opinions that we as black people held about one movie.
Exactly. I mean, and we were able to talk about how important the representation of Africa was,
right?
Even if it was fiction, fictionalized.
Yeah.
That was, and how important that was, especially for little kids to
right.
see. But also the political implications of some of the messaging in the movie, and really the messed up politics of the movie.
But the thing of it is, when you put art out that represent us, we have a right, and that's the thing. When you put out art that represents us or supposed to represent us, then we have a right to examine it, to critique it, and we should be mature enough. And this is my admonishment as an elder in the black community. And when I mean elder, I mean by age, not elected, but who has been around a few birthdays. What I would say to the so-called Beehive and all the rest of these young folks and not so young who feel that you're protecting an artist's reputation and stuff from being criticized, as Hyman Roth said in The Godfather, this is the life we chosen. I didn't ask who gave the order, because it had nothing to do with business.
He will always Godfather quote everything.
And so this is the thing where we have to talk about here, is the fact that this is the business that Beyonce has chosen. And this is the business that has rewarded her well. She doesn't need you. You know what I mean? She doesn't need you to sit out there and defend her art. She put it out there, whether we like it or not. She put it out there, and guess what? She's already, look, two weeks from now, she's gonna drop something off on the internet. She know y'all gonna rush and buy.
Exactly.
So the thing of it is the fact that, we have to understand that in this society and in this culture, and this is what I was alluding to on my little rant on my page, is the fact that we have to understand that we live in a consumerist culture, and so It's a reason why billionaires are elected to office in this country. It's a reason why that we don't really take corporations, and why we don't take people, why we don't take Wall Street, why there hasn't been the type of yellow vest movements in this country as we've seen, because we have been conditioned and socialized to worship wealthy people.
Yes.
We have been conditioned and socialized to think that one day, if we just work hard and we drop that demo, or we dance hard enough, or and I'm saying that for black people because there's only a few avenues that they allow us to make any money. But the thing of it is that we really feel and buy into the myth of this so-called American exceptionalism, this American dream, and this myth of meritocracy. And so what happens is that when we see some of the few that had squeezed through the cracks, like the Oprahs and the Beyoncés and the Jay-Z's and all these other ones, who we can count on our hands out of millions of the rest of us, then we say, hey, look, we could be just like them. And so this society socializes us to believe that we're in our position because somehow we didn't do something right. Somehow we made the wrong decisions. And as we are marketed it to, as we are programmed to worship celebrity, to believe that what they say is gospel, just look at, Jackie, as we say all the time. With this last election in 2016, you and I both saw how damaging the imagery was when Trump flew out of the sky in his private jet to a bunch of poor, working class people who was like, they were standing around Mount Olympus waiting for Zeus to descend, and he did in his private jet. I mean, I thought that was obscene, as I think it's obscene when the Bloombergs and the Steyer and all of these other people who finance their own campaign, the Jeff Bezos and all. I think it's obscene when they flaunt their wealth in front of us while the rest of us are losing more and more each day. It's obscene. We should be offended by it. But see, we had decades of being conditioned by the oligarchs and the elitists and the capitalists to accept all of this, because they held out this carrot for so long that just one day, remember Coming to America? Remember Louis Anderson's character? He said, now I'm on lettuce.
Right.
And then, then it'll be fries. And then I'll be making the big bucks.
Right.
They still play this game with us.
They still play it. And they use celebrity to do it. I mean, look at Michelle Obama has a new podcast that basically she's just going to use to shame poor black people and to shove respectability politics down the throats of these folks in the streets, just like her husband Barack Obama was doing when he was in the White House. Listen, whatever Beyonce intended Black is King to be or not to be, and we're just gonna be honest and tell you we ain't seen it, and we probably ain't gonna never see it. You know why? Because it's on Disney Plus, and it's another capitalist venture, another capitalist platform. We got to give another bunch of capitalists some money so we can watch a black woman's art that's supposed to be so important to black people. That's obscene to me. That is really just, what? No. That's just not what I'm going to do right now. And you do what you want. We're not telling you what to do. We don't do that here in Luqman Nation. But we're just telling you the lay of the land with this thing. Whatever she intended Black is King to be as art, I'm sure it's great. Because she is meticulous with the visual representation and she's great with that. I'm sure it's a great piece of art. And we're not at all saying that it does not have importance in the way certain aspects of some African cultures generally have been represented.
But let's be clear. I mean, just like the Black Panther, and just like with Black is King, which I've seen most of it to see what it was all about. It's this romanticized version of Africa that has been given to us. It's not our vision. And see, that's the thing. It's not our vision. It's a romanticized version of Africa that has been packaged it and marketed it to us. An Africa that is and this is the thing that I think that a lot of our African brothers and sisters were a little upset about. It shows the Africa that is still classified or still looked at as exotic.
Oh yeah.
Still looked at as exotic. Still looked at as like a wild place. Beautiful, but wild.
Right.
The leopard skins and the paint faces and all. And what I call it is the Africa that was marketed for tourists. And that's the thing. It's a tourist. Now, this is not This is not basic. This is not questioning the sincerity of what Beyonce wanted to do. I think Solange would have done it better. But this is not to question. Have Solange would have been given that vision, Solange probably would have pulled it off. But to me, my opinion, she's a little bit deeper than Beyonce. But the thing of it is the fact that this is not to say that she lacks sincerity. What it's to say is that we have to understand that a lot of the conclusions and opinions that we have been given to us.
Right.
Why is it that Beyonce saying black is king, but yet she hasn't performed on the continent? She hasn't performed in Africa. So, so, I mean, is there a Bermuda Triangle there or something?
But she performed for the Saudi.
Right. So this is the capitalist element. So the capitalist element is, okay, look, for whatever reason she didn't go to the continent, only she can answer that. But the fact remains is that still, somebody said on my page on that Beyonce is anti-capitalist. Bull. You are not anti-capitalist the way that woman markets her music. That is not anti-capitalism. But the thing of it is the fact that we have to understand that Americans, number one, are out of major so-called developed modern countries. We hold the least passports. Now it's worthless. Now we can't go anywhere. Nobody wants us now. But we don't travel. We don't. We have this myopic view of the world. And when it comes to what we're discussing about, a lot of these fandoms are woefully uninformed, and America has a history of being anti-intellectual. So that's another thing too. Yeah. That's the reason why people like Trump and the rest of them can ascend to power, because all they got to do is make fun of the smart people. This is nothing but the United States is just a large high school. That's all it is. The United States is nothing but a big ass 51 state high school where you sit back and you can go to the head of the class by making fun of smart people and and talk about how stupid they are and this and that and the other, and then you have all of the other idiots who worship the jocks, who worship the cheerleaders, the celebrities and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden now push them up because they're the beautiful people. They're the beautiful people. They're the ones we aspire to be. And, and all of these smart people who really have the answers, all of the smart people who could really make society better, they're ostracized because, the dumb jocks and when I mean dumb jocks, I'm talking about all of those anti-intellectuals who, for whatever reason, are able to convince the masses that we don't listen to them. So the thing of it is that America is just one big high school. That's what it is. You know what I mean? So...
Yeah,
it has always been a culture that has always been anti-intellectual. We see this with the pandemic. Fauci and everybody that knows what they're talking about are slandered, they're ostracized, and they're ridiculed. And we would rather, and when I say we, people would rather believe a woman who talked about sleeping with demons as opposed to pure factual science, and so this is what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
We're dealing with a population in this country, man, that is just woefully uninformed and anti-intellectual, and that's the reason why you can't get nobody to watch a 13-minute video anymore, because all of a sudden, my head hurts, and then that's it. Or people who are on the internet but want you to do the research for them. So this is what we're talking about.
And trust y'all. Well, Beyonce is not the first. This is not the first time we, as a people, have critiqued the art of people who have made it, or black artists. You saw that was done with Spike Lee and Malcolm. We've been critiquing Spike Lee's movies since he's been making movies. But the point was made by some people in particular in response to the to what Noname said about how, you know, people didn't criticize the original Lion King movie, and, you know, how nobody said anything about you know, all the problems with the original movie. And there was racially, the stereotypes, the hyenas were stereotyped. It was classism in there. It was sexism in there. And guess what? We talked about it then too. But a lot of y'all don't know we did, because Twitter is only 14 years old. The world existed before Twitter. We did stuff before Twitter. We had these conversations before Twitter. Twitter is not the beginning and the end of discourse around black people. Black Twitter is not the beginning and the end of black people's understanding of our struggle. So y'all need to stop talking about, well, y'all didn't say anything about the original Lion King movie. You weren't even born then yet. Yes, we did. And that proves the point. The fact that we did have these conversations about the movie Lion King 25 years ago. We had these very conversations about the misrepresentation of black people, of the continent of Africa, of Africans. This is a movie about animals. And they tried to make this about Africa, representing African people. We had all these conversations then, and Lion King is still one of the highest grossing Broadway musicals ever. And now is this popular play still. There's a remake of it. Beyonce's doing this, you know, she worked on the soundtrack. Now she's got this Black is King thing. But we told you the problems with the original movie, and you're telling us that we can't criticize art? Really? It seems to me that the fact that you don't know that we had these conversations about this art from the beginning, seems to me that your lack of knowledge of that proves the point that Noname was making. You cannot just look at art as it's packaged and given to us as consumers and say, woo, this is beautiful, this is wonderful, and not understand the systems behind it. So, that's our show on Cult of Personality.
Yep.
Hope you had fun. Hope you like what you heard. If you did like what you heard, and even if you disagree with it, that's fine too. But if you like what you hear and see coming out of Luqman Nation, please share our videos, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Luqman Nation, the #1. Consider becoming a patron. We really do appreciate your support, and we've got a lot of new stuff coming. We update our patron page with patron-only content quite regularly, including a weekly live stream where we just talk about stuff with our patrons. So, we thank y'all very much for watching us tonight. We appreciate you, and as always, y'all, be good to each other. Calm down. Don't take everything so doggone serious. If you want to watch Black is King, watch Black is King. Enjoy it. But we need to deal with imperialism and militarism and white supremacy and capitalism. We can do both. We can walk and chew gum at the same time, y'all. Peace! But only if you're willing to fight for it. Good night.